From that first impression when a customer walks through your door, to how well your assets perform every day, you're the ones leading the way. Today, you're facing a changing world, which means you're tackling more challenges than ever before. You're embracing the unknown, making strategic decisions, and finding fresh, innovative ways to run your business. You've risen to the challenge, you have momentum, and no one is going to slow you down. And you know transparency and data are key to moving your business forward. ServiceChannel provides you with the insights you need to reduce costs, improve quality, ensure compliance, and be confident in every decision so you can focus on what's ahead. ServiceChannel is with you every step of the way. We will continue to move forward. We will build a better future together.
Welcome to the session, Blueprint for Cost Savings, a systematic approach to eliminating wasteful spend. I'm your host, Chris Zock, Senior Product Marketing Manager at ServiceChannel. This is a time when you're being asked to meet heightened expectations around safety, quality, and compliance. But you may be equipped with fewer resources and tighter budgets to get it all done. This tension underlines the importance of finding cost savings and eliminating waste. And that's just what we'll be talking about here today. We'll start this session with Sid Shetty, VP of Major Accounts, who works with our largest customers at ServiceChannel. He'll share a strategic perspective on the role of data in mapping out that blueprint for cost savings. Next, we'll hear from Mike Roberts, Director of Business Development at ServiceChannel. He'll talk about how to find the most cost-effective providers in every market where you operate. Then we'll meet with Tiffany Santiago, Senior Customer Success Manager at ServiceChannel. She'll help to prioritize the savings opportunities where brands are seeing the greatest financial impacts, and she'll explain how we're quantifying those results. One last note, we'll end this session with a few minutes for live Q&A with our speakers, but you don't have to wait. Whenever you think of a question, just type it into the chat window. Thanks for coming. Let's roll. Hi Sid, welcome to ServiceX.
Hey Chris, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Where in the world are you calling us from today?
I am calling from my home office in Princeton, New Jersey.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit about your history at ServiceChannel and how that informs the unique perspective that you bring to helping our customers?
Yes, Chris. It's been an amazing journey. Over the past 12 years, I've really seen ServiceChannel evolve. From a small team that had a few customers to today where we have the biggest and best brands in the world on our roster. I've worn many hats at ServiceChannel, leading teams in operations, global services, account management, marketplace strategy, and business intelligence. So it's given me the privilege of actually working with hundreds of customers and leaders to really work together to find solutions for their unique needs. Of course, that includes finding ways to save money and optimize spend. So they're actually using the money in the areas that matter most. Because at the end of the day, facilities really has a big job in ensuring that your locations are safe, optimized for sales, and welcoming to your customers. Because at the end of the day, your locations are the face of the brand.
You led the initiative to introduce data analytics to our platform and to the industry. What's that journey been like, and how has that easy access to insights changed the way that our customers manage their facility spend?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've come a long way. When we first introduced business intelligence into our platform, I had to really be a data evangelist and spend a lot of time with our customers, which I loved, but it also meant a lot of travel, but it was completely worth it. Because our customers were so used to Excel, and they spent a lot of time actually collecting the data and manipulating the data, which left very little time for them to actually go and spend time analyzing the data so they can make the best decisions possible. Our goal was to flip that process. So now our platform actually does all the hard work for you, so you have easy access to data, meaningful data, and visual insights. This way, every decision you make is a data-driven decision all the time. And I think it has really transformed our industry because it has empowered our customers and service providers, and it has changed the conversation to be metrics-driven rather than being based on gut feelings.
How do you think about the map of opportunities that are unlocked once a customer has access to the data?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are many opportunities for cost savings and for you to get the best value for your money. So when I usually talk to my customers, I have them focus on 4 key areas. 1, you really want the best providers that are most cost efficient but deliver the best quality. You can use the data to actually do that. So you can use the information to go and either renegotiate with your existing providers or find new ones. 2, you really want to hold your providers accountable. So you want providers to make sure that they're charging you the rates that you've agreed to and only for the time that they're on site. You also want them to be very transparent about the materials and parts that they've used and very open about the markups that they've charged. Number 3, effectively managing your assets can be a great way for you to actually avoid overspending. Because if you think about it, assets have a big impact on your budget, but it also has a big impact on your customer experience and ultimately sales. Tracking and associating costs at the individual asset level also allows you to make better repair versus replace decisions. But more importantly, when you do that, you can avoid spending on assets that are under warranty. And even more importantly, it avoids you voiding the warranty completely. 4, you really want to manage your process and program efficiently. So if you think about it, by leveraging automation, it avoids you from doing repetitive tasks and wasting time and resources, when you can use that same time to focus your energies on things that are more important, like executing cost-saving strategies. So if you look at all these 4 key areas, you'll realize that by using data and automation, you can really unlock a lot of cost-saving opportunities. But more importantly, I think it leads to better outcomes that have a bigger and greater impact to the business.
Thanks for sharing that landscape of opportunities for saving on costs and for the background on how data has transformed our industry. I appreciate your time today, Sid.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey Chris, how are you? It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from sunny San Diego, California.
Well, thanks for coming inside a little bit just for us.
No problem.
To start, could you tell us about your role at ServiceChannel?
Sure, I'm the Director of Business Development for the platform. Our group here drives a lot of different initiatives, but one unifying theme is, how can we drive value for both the brands on our platform as well as the providers on our platform?
And how does your team help our customers to achieve cost savings?
So over the past couple of years, our subscribers were asking us more and more to help them, with their sourcing and finding great providers. In response to that, we launched a program called ServiceChannel Scout, which essentially leverages the rich data on our platform to make recommendations on providers, in the world of quality, speed, or of course, cost.
When you look at that data, what makes a provider expensive?
That's a good question. Anything, as we see it, anything that drives the timeline on repair up, obviously drives cost, right? And so when we start to think about what drives the timeline for a certain work order to take longer than it should, we look at things like, is the technician qualified to do this type of work? If they're not, then maybe it takes multiple visits or visits from different people. or maybe it just takes them twice as long to repair something that should take a lot less time. And the second case is how prepared are the technicians when they come out on site, right? How well provisioned is their truck? If they're not ready to do the job, it typically drives multiple visits because they've got to go get parts or supplies or other things. At the end of the day, we can measure this in the data, and we can identify it as low first-time completion or just kind of long resolution time. And over kind of our deep dive into this data, we've identified that efficiency and speed are much bigger drivers of cost than say an hourly rate.
As you guide companies, where do you begin the process of optimizing provider costs?
Well, you've got to start by having a good baseline of data, right? A lot of our customers come onto our platform and they don't have that, and it's challenging to make cost-saving provider decisions when you don't have that core data set to compare it to. Oftentimes, what we do when a customer comes onto our platform is we will, during implementation, directly address those providers that they know they're having challenges with. Then we'll take the next 90 or 120 days once they go live onto the platform to collect that rich breadth of data around provider quality and cost so that we can benchmark those going forward. Once we have that data on hand, we can dive in and really start to optimize.
So after you lay down this baseline of data on those existing providers, what can you do with it?
Well, once we've established that baseline, we can actually compare it to, we can benchmark it against all of the performance on the platform. We typically look at the core trades. There's about 8 or 10 key trades that we like to measure against that drive 80 to 90% of the savings and ensure that we're actually moving the needle. What's interesting is that when a company comes on and uses our platform, they've got great visibility into the performance of their own network. What our program does is actually bring visibility into the 500 other customers across the platform and their hundreds of thousands of locations and millions of work orders and data points to be able to say objectively in this market, in this trade, and in the industry vertical that you're in, are you overpaying or are you getting good value from your providers? From there we can make recommendations on how to make a change, like who's the recommended provider to actually take on this work and drive savings.
When a brand decides to act on that recommendations, how do we help them?
Well, once a recommendation is accepted, there's a number of steps that we've got to go through. What's nice is that our team takes care of all of those pieces. First we've got to get those providers onboarded, and our team drives that process from the collection of certificates of insurance to vetting them for their capability and capacity. Once they're onboarded and receiving work orders, we've got a whole monitoring team that's going to track how they're actually performing on the platform for the customer to whom we recommended them. At the end of the day, we've got data, that we can make, recommendations on, but there's a lot of context and nuance from brand to brand that we want to make sure that we understand and measure to make sure that those providers are still meeting the needs of those customers.
Can you share an example of how you used a customer's data to execute on one of these opportunities, and what were the results?
Sure. We recently engaged in an optimization with a grocery client of ours, and they initially came onto the platform. One of the big drivers for them to come onto ServiceChannel was, they didn't have any data, on a lot of what they were doing. They took the first 6 months to essentially measure and record and understand, how their business was running, how their provider network was performing. And once they had established that, they came to us and they said, I think we've got some areas where we can improve. We took their data and identified some core places where we could help and made some recommendations that we were projecting would save them, around 20% on their plumbing costs. After getting some of those providers in place and measuring them after a couple of hundred work orders, we've actually realized 21% in actual savings from the incumbent provider, which, at the end of the day is a great savings number, but they came from a provider that was already relatively cost effective. We often see savings numbers up to 40%. We don't want to forget about speed and quality either. So, in the review that we do, kind of ongoing, we actually measured, their performance and speed and quality, and found out that on things like first time completion, on-time arrival, and check-in compliance, they were at or near 100%, which is really pretty remarkable.
That's a great example and makes it clear that finding the right provider is fundamental to controlling costs. In fact, that's so important that we're actually going to hear more from Mike and from one of our Scout customers in another session. It's called The Secret Ingredient: How to Source the Right Service Provider. Thank you, Mike, for explaining how to achieve cost savings with provider sourcing.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It was fun.
I appreciate your time. Take care.
You too.
Hi, Tiffany. Welcome to ServiceX.
Hey, Chris, I'm glad to be here.
How are things in Dallas?
Beautiful. Thanks for asking.
Let's start with your role. How do you and other customer success managers work with our brands to help them achieve their cost savings goals?
So, as a customer success manager here at ServiceChannel, our goal is to help customers achieve their unique facility goals. Often, we're trying to help achieve cost savings while also delivering a quality brand experience. We can leverage all the capabilities of our platform as well as the expertise that we've accumulated across the entire ServiceChannel team. Based on the successes of our other brands in the industry, we can assess opportunities as well as help you prioritize the items that will give you the greatest impact so you can see results quickly. One of the things we've done recently is to help customers build a cost savings dashboard so they can track their results in real time and easily share them with stakeholders.
That makes you the perfect person for us to talk to as we continue to explore this blueprint for savings. You mentioned how you help customers to prioritize the opportunities with the greatest potential impact. Where do you recommend they get started?
That's a really good question. So the first thing that we typically look at is your provider base and assess their performance, which is something you can also do by working with Mike and our Scout team. The next area we look at is provider quality management and accountability. The data and controls on our platform give customers an easy way to confirm you're only paying for the services that you received at the agreed upon rates.
So, where do you usually see the biggest savings when it comes to holding providers accountable?
There are a few activities that can produce significant savings. The first is using proposals to get lower pricing. By automating the proposal review process in ServiceChannel, users are able to gather multiple proposals and review them efficiently. On average, customers are saving between 10 and 15% when they obtain multiple proposals. To make it even easier to review proposals, we've recently upgraded our proposal recommendation tool and made it available to all of our customers. Now you're getting a recommendation for every single proposal based on data gathered from across the platform. One of the ways we're helping customers to measure their savings is by using our analytics tool to quantify the difference between the highest proposal amount and the final paid invoice amount. One of our grocery customers has saved over $600,000 over the last year with proposal negotiations.
That's a great result from reducing the prices before the work even begins. What's the best way to control costs when it comes to paying for the services that have already been delivered?
So the platform data actually makes it possible to confirm that you're getting invoiced accurately for the time that providers are spending on site. Some of the brands on our platform require all providers to check in and out, whether it's through our GPS mobile app or through a phone or IVR. If the data is missing, they're able to avoid paying for work unless they can confirm that it was completed. Then when the provider does check in, they can use our time on site data to ensure that the data is accurate on the invoice. They can reject invoices when there's a mismatch in this data. One of my customers saved over $1 million over the last year by canceling preventive maintenance work orders when the provider did not check in. For example, they had quarterly HVAC maintenance scheduled, but they found that this work was not being completed even though they were still being billed for each service.
That's huge. Not only are they avoiding that wasted spend, but they're getting those important PMs completed at a higher rate, which is important for their brand uptime. Are there any other accountability measures with valuable savings?
Sure, there are. There are a couple more that I commonly review with customers. Just like you only want to pay for the actual time spent on site, you should only be paying the agreed upon rates as well. By requiring your providers to enter contracted rates into Fixbook, you can prevent overbilling. If a provider does happen to bill for a higher rate, then a rate mismatch will require them to enter a reason. Another opportunity to achieve lower costs is through the effective use of NTEs, or not to exceed levels. We like to think of NTEs as guardrails to make sure that you're aware of any overspend over a predetermined threshold, so you have the opportunity to closer review these outliers. For most customers, this NTE is typically set at the higher end of costs when you're prioritizing efficiency. But when you're in a situation of trying to cut costs, we help customers to set their NTEs significantly lower at a goal amount based on research done by their CSM on average costs of data within their own peer groups. This forces a higher level of review and approval and helps to control overspending. By lowering their NTEs, one of our restaurant customers was able to cut their spend by approximately 20% over the course of 6 months.
There's a lot of savings to be gained in this area as well as quality improvements. And we have another session that dives deeper called Tactical to Strategic, Shifting the Focus for Provider Management. Tiffany, now that we've covered the opportunities with providers, we're ready for the third area, which is asset management. How do you recommend that customers get started with saving on their assets?
Asset management in itself can be daunting. The ideal for asset management is to be tracking every individual asset, so you can optimize spend on each unit. You can actually get started with savings on assets before that though, by tracking each type of equipment rather than individual units. If you have recurring issues with a certain equipment supplier, you're able to identify those trends. For example, one customer identified a defect in a specific freezer that was leading to costly repairs. They saw frequent requests of the same nature across all of their locations and were able to assess that it was the actual equipment.
That makes sense as a way to get started with managing assets. Once a company decides to invest and track those individual assets, what additional savings become available to them?
There's a lot more that becomes available. Once you've tagged your assets, you can save a lot more money. You're able to ensure that you're not paying for repairs that should be covered under warranty. You can quickly identify when it's time to proactively replace a unit based on the age or the amount of money or the condition that you spent on the unit. And when you're making future purchasing decisions, you can look at the total cost of ownership and you'll know which asset suppliers have a higher frequency of repair or costs.
Assets can consume a large share of your budget, and they're critical for the customer experience. So we have a whole session focused on that topic where two of our brands share how they're saving and how they're reducing downtime. It's called Reliable Revenue Machines, Managing Capital Assets from Beginning to End. Tiffany, the last area on the blueprint is efficiently managing the facilities program. How does efficiency lead to cost savings?
Well, managing facilities by clipboard or by email is very time consuming. It leaves room for error and wasteful spend, and it requires more resources to ensure you can stay up and running. By automating processes as much as possible, this frees up your team to focus on more strategic items such as capital planning, projects, other program improvements. And another huge benefit that we're seeing from efficiency and automation is that your store managers and employees are able to focus on the customer's experience and sales and not spending their time dealing with facility issues.
Which tools do you recommend that can really help those store managers focus the time on the customer experience?
Chris, there's a lot, but we can focus on a few that help store managers to save time by getting work completed the first time and as quickly as possible. A couple of tools I recommend for this are called interactive troubleshooting, which can help to capture relevant details and photos for your service providers so they can take corrective actions on the first trip. Another really powerful tool that's being picked up recently is called Decision Tree. Basically, this tool helps you to assign the optimal provider and priority to the service that you've requested so that you're not paying more than necessary and you're getting the repair done in the right amount of time. In the end, we found that work orders completed the first time cost approximately 50% less than ones with repeat trips.
That's a big increase. You know, we really want the teams to spend their time where it matters most to their customers and to their business. So that's it. We've covered the entire blueprint for cost savings. Tiffany, thank you for your time, for sharing your expertise and these best practices where our brands are seeing success.
Thanks, Chris. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
At a time when cost pressures are higher than ever, we at ServiceChannel are here to help. Today we sketched out the blueprint along with examples of where brands are achieving significant savings. These same experts and best practices are available to you. So if you'd like to take advantage, please reach out.